Welcome to Watching the Throne.
A lyrical analysis of Kanye West.
My name's Chris Lambert.
My name is Travis Bean, and oh gosh, I am so glad I stretched this morning because I need to be fully limber for this upcoming season of Watching the Throne.
Yeah, is this our biggest undertaking yet?
I think so. I mean, 23 tracks, 27 if you count the bonus songs. It's longer than any Kanye album yet. I believe College Dropout was the longest at like an hour, 15 minutes or something. This comes in at like 85-ish minutes. If we're not counting the bonus songs. If we count the bonus songs, then it's like a full feature-length movie. And it's the densest Kanye album ever. Like, it's the most lyrics we'll have to read through, like the most features that have ever been on an album, the most ideas being expressed at once. Chris, are you sure you want to do this?
You know, our 6 years of doing this podcast has been in preparation for this season on Donda. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, you're totally
That's how
right.
I feel about it.
Kanye knew the whole time.
Yeah, right. He's just like, all right, I'm gonna get these guys real good. I'm just gonna guide them along until I finally drop the magnum opus on them, and let's see how they do. We're up to the challenge.
I hate to be too narcissistic, but is it too crazy to believe that back in 2004 when Kanye dropped College Dropout that he was planning this the whole time and thought like somebody's going to start a podcast someday and they think I've made it easy for them. They think they figured me out. Like, I'm just going to drop a bombshell on them in 2021.
I like the idea that 2004 Kanye had already predicted podcasts. It's just like, these things.
That's how far ahead of his time he is.
Right? He just has that vision. He's a visionary.
He is.
So, yeah, I'm very excited. This was the album I was kind of hoping for in terms of scale, scope, magnitude from Kanye ever since The Life of Pablo. Because I feel like The Life of Pablo is very similar to this one in terms of being like pretty large and covering a lot of territory in terms of his marriage and religion and fame. Very similar concepts at both. It's just in The Life of Pablo, he's at the beginning of his marriage,
right,
and the beginning of his family, and there's a lot of hope but also a lot of fear that his demons could still get the best of him. And with Donda, we're on the other side of that, and the demons did get the best of him,
right,
and he's reflecting on his marriage in a lot of ways. So I'm excited about how this album is going to fit into his discography, the way that it's going to pay off on topics that he's been exploring for years now, callbacks to previous albums, whether intended or like unintentional, but really that juxtaposition between this and The Life of Pablo, I think, is going to come up a lot.
For sure. I mean, you said it, like he's dealing with a lot on this album, and that's been the beauty of this show, to be able to cycle through Kanye's albums one by one and learn more and more about him. And all of that work that we put in has greatly informed how I'm hearing and reading Donda, an album that I think, like without a doubt, is Kanye's most personal album, his most emotional album, probably his most like sentimental, in the sense that like he really is looking at him. He's finally looking at himself and like ready to take, like he feels like he's there finally. He's at this final step where he can make a turn, and and I think we talked about it on the first reactions podcast, but the last few albums from Kanye have slowly started to feel more and more personal, with like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, 808s, Yeezus, like they're personal, like it's stuff Kanye's dealing with, but it also feels like you're watching a character go through everything.
Yeah.
Where The Life of Pablo, like the bridge is being gapped, like obviously Kim and the kids were there, so it's real, but he's also talking about like cheating on Kim, which like pretty sure he didn't do that kind of stuff and wouldn't be admitted on the record if he did. So like there's some element of like character there. And then Ye Could See Ghosts, like we finally see him like confronting himself and dealing with these demons, and Jesus is King, like fixing his connection with God. So you can look across all of those albums, from losing, his hometown, to losing his mother, to losing love in his life, then gaining love and now losing it again, his connection with God, him dealing with his fragmented self, like all of that is happening here. Like it's all happening like at the same time all the time. So it's just going to be, it's tough. This is going to be the toughest overview to do because it's hard to overview an album that's doing that much. Like so much is going to reveal itself as we go from song to song, line to line, and like slowly unveil that story.
Unmask, unveil.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's very well said about the expectations for this and some of the difficulties. I think what jumped out to us, or at least to myself, and I think you've agreed in the initial listens, is that there seems to be a little bit of at least a 2-act structure going on, going from Donda Chant to Heaven and Hell being Act 1, and then Donda to No Child Left Behind being Act 2. And it feels fitting, at least at this point in time, to start with Donda Chant and then start Act 2 with Donda. It's just kind of a way to see that there's maybe a reset or a parallel construction. We talk about parallel constructions in Kanye's lyricism a lot, how you'll see similar concepts at the same point in 2 different verses, right? So the third line of the first verse and the third line of the second verse might be on the same topic or use a similar rhyme scheme or something like that. That's parallel construction. So having Donda Chant and Donda being the first songs of each act would be that kind of parallel construction. And then you would have Heaven and Hell as the finale of Act 1 and No Child Left Behind as the finale of Act 2. So I think that's initially where I'm at with thinking there's a structure here.
Do you want to, like, what exactly, just speaking at it broadly, of course, because we don't want to get too much into the nitty gritty because this episode will turn into 3 hours long because we have to rank every song eventually.
Yeah.
But what are you seeing, like, in the first half to the second half? Like, what kind of movement?
So I think the overall album arc goes from the concept of jail to the concept of come to life. And we're seeing something with Kanye looking at breaking free, not just from jail, but what jail seems to represent in this album in terms of his past, where his marriage ended up with society and culture and his place in culture, even just with his own past, his grief, the loss of his mom, who he has been and the things that he has done. And I think that you kind of see the first act exploring a lot of the fallout from being in jail, a lot of the tensions that Kanye is feeling with others, with himself, with his marriage and the end of his marriage. It seems to be just even the soundscape is a little darker.
Right.
Across these songs, from God Breathed to Off the Grid, Praise God, Jonah, Okay, Junior. It's not until Believe What I Say. Like Hurricane and Believe What I Say are a little brighter, 24 as well. And it just kind of feels like from Believe What I Say to Moon, you ramp up these feelings of longing and a little bit of sadness and looking for comfort. And then you start that second portion and it all feels in line with renewal. Right. With this idea that my soul has been purified, that I am made new again, that I am free. The last lines you hear Kanye say in a verse on this album are, when I'm free, I'm free. So I think that's really kind of the key component, is that idea of going from jail to when I'm free, I'm free. And that brings us back to the idea of what is he free from? What does jail represent? What does freedom represent? And going back through the album, you start to answer those questions by looking at the topics he starts to bring up, the ways in which he's feeling imprisoned, the ways in which he's feeling renewed. And then even looking at the last arc of songs, you can kind of see how that makes sense with Keep My Spirit Alive being the first song that follows Donda, heading into Jesus Lord, that has that repeating line, like, do you know someone that needs Jesus?
Right.
Or tell me someone that needs Jesus, whatever I'll memorize it soon. But whatever that line is, it's like, yeah, Kanye and others are people that need Jesus. And you go from that, this idea of needing Jesus, and even like Jesus Lord feeling almost like a calling out to, like, Jesus Lord, come to me, like, save me, please, to new again. and New Again having this idea of being remade, leading to Television, Lord I Need You, Pure Souls, Come to Life. Everything in that arc is so spiritual and so much about progress and I think a sense of moving forward and picking up that it just feels very much an arc unto itself.
Yeah. I totally agree with all that. I think the only wrench I would throw into it is that because I'm so used to kind of doing 3-act structures, that it could be more of a divine comedy kind of thing where we saw him do at the listening parties where there's a hell, a purgatory, and a heaven stage where a lot of what you're saying like still fits into that. And maybe the purgatory, I don't know exactly where it fits. We'll probably get a better idea once we dig into the lyrics. But there is a notable change in sound, I think, from Jonah to Believe What I Say. Although I think Believe What I Say is like, lyrically, it kind of fits into a lot of what's in the first part. But the sound like completely changes. And you start to hear a more like, I hate to say like confident and carefree, but somebody who's like less tied down by, I don't know. It's an interesting change, especially thinking about like Moon, where at the first listening party, we have that shot of the guy who's like, you know, made the highest free fall, right? The Red Bull guy.
Felix Baumgartner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This idea that like of existing in the in-between, and there's a song called Heaven and Hell, like, which we call Purgatory. And I almost wonder if that's all a build to these spiritual songs at the end. I'm not sure where the heaven part would come in, but maybe it's like Pure Souls, or maybe it's even Come to Life. Like this idea that there is an afterlife and another life where you live with your mom and all these ideas and you've thought of and lessons you've learned like come to life. I don't know. I could see all of that working too.
So with that theory, it'd be Act 1's Donda chant through Junya.
Yeah, or
Act
like
2's
remote control, somewhere in there.
I could see Act 2 being like Believe What I Say through Heaven and Hell.
Yeah, it could be, yeah.
You just have like that kind of stretch of purgatory, or even like Donda chant to Believe What I Say, then 24 to Heaven and Hell.
Right.
Being more of that purgatory, then Donda through Come to Life would be Act 3.
Yeah. That would, I mean, it would line up with the parties and like how, I mean, he almost like, it's almost laughable how directly he played on it with like Kim coming out in the white dress and everything. Like it seems like he was really inspired by that, and it could just be existing in the form of the album as well now.
That's very true. I'll be curious to see as we go through like what where we land on that, right?
Yeah, right.
And it's quite possible that there is no set arc,
right?
You know, we'll see. What's funny to me, I'm thinking about this. I don't think we talked about it on the show yet. I saw a clip. I don't think we talked about it at all. I mentioned it last night when I did the green room with Cole Kushner from Dissect and Femi, who co-wrote the Damn season, and mentioned that Ian from the H3 podcast, Ian the Intern, a longtime Kanye fan, there's a clip of him talking about, and I'm pretty sure it's in reference to us. Maybe that's egotistical of me, but I was like loudly making the claim that exactly how I said here, that you go jail to come to life with that When I'm Free, I'm Free. And he said there's already fans when we heard at the listening parties the track order kind of jumping around between listening party 1, listening party 2, listening party 3. Right. So how can you say there's intentionality with having jail at the start and come to life at the end, and that there's this arc and this story when we know that jail was at the end of one of the listening parties? So how does that even fit? And I understand the skepticism. But I would also argue that just because it was at the end at the first listening party doesn't necessarily mean it was always intended to be the end on the actual album. It's quite possible that because he got the Jay-Z verse that day, right, on July 22nd, that he was just like, what a great way to close the show.
Right.
Like, I'm going to have Jail be the last song so people hear Jay-Z at the end and kind of freak out. That's the climax of this listening party. Otherwise, you would start with Jay-Z, which is also exciting, but Like, just so I can understand that there's skepticism, and I'm not saying this just in response to Ian, but I think Ian would be representative of people that might be listening to the show and say, we heard that the track list was out of order. And I just think what Kanye was doing at the listening parties was more for testing. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that was initially going to be the track list. And it doesn't mean that he didn't have the overall concept in mind this entire time.
Yeah, I guess to me, God, it's probably even simpler than that. Because what you said, like, I totally agree. Like, what a better way to close the show than Jay-Z's back, you know, the return to the throne. But you know, an artist process, and I guess I just know this because, like, you know, you're a rabid fan of a lot of different kinds of artists, and you get an insight into the way they make their songs, the way they make their albums. And to me, what happens a lot of the time is you don't sit down, plan out a story, or even plan out any themes. Like, they kind of naturally come, and you make a bunch of songs that are in line with that theme and whatever you're trying to express. And you tinker with the order, you find out what works. It's a balance between, like, lyricism and, like, telling a story, and just, like, what songs flow well in and out of each other. And so, I mean, who knows what it would have meant if Jail was at the end. Like, I'm sure there's a way to make that work, for that to carry meaning based on the way you arrange the tracks. And it's hard to believe that Kanye wouldn't be doing that, because unless you think we're completely full of shit. But what we do in this show is, like, we study his albums and we see these things happening over and over and over. Like, the guy always seems to form these full stories that have beginning, middles, and ends. And it's probably always the case that he has a bunch of songs that he made, and then he has to piece them together. Like, to me, that feels like a natural part of storytelling in music.
Yeah, right. Like, you have this idea of, like, I am talking about this portion of my life. You create songs around that, and then you find kind of the order, the meaning. I know from my own, like, poetry writing, fiction writing, even editing other people's stories. I just worked on a memoir with a producer, and it's one of those things where you get the work down and you know what you want to. You may have, like, the initial spark, and you have random things that come out while you're creating. But as you look at it, you're like, oh, you know, I had this as the last stanza, but if I move it to the top, it starts off with this theme and it kicks things off. Okay, let's go there with it.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily change everything that you were feeling, everything that you were getting at. I know there have been novelists that had things at the end, move them to the beginning, filmmakers that had scenes near the end that move them up front, or
right.
like tear the story apart and put it out of order
right.
From how it initially went. And the producer, the memoir, we ended up, like, knowing that what the last chapter was.
Yeah.
And then when we were close to finishing up, going back and adding, like, things here and there to kind of build up what the theme was once we kind of discovered it. All the story and all the details were already there, but we're like, oh, this is a thread. So this is the main thread we want to use, and then it's just adding to that. But it doesn't mean that there wasn't already a backbone of a concept in place.
It almost especially seems the case when you have an album like this gargantuan. Like, Kanye had 23 tracks. He was trying to, like, decide where to place them and how to arrange this. Like, to me, it all feels very fluid, the way these ideas fall in and out of each other on the album. And the order of them, like, what specific order they're in, doesn't matter. It's just that they're in a order, and the order he's chosen for this particular story he's trying to tell. Like we saw with The Life of Pablo, Ultralight Beam was both at the beginning and at the end. And you can see it working both at the beginning and at the end. Like, just based on the structure, it gains a different meaning and a different power, but it doesn't stop it from having the meaning it has. And that's just what Kanye's so good at, is making sure the structure makes sense, soundly makes sense in narrative terms.
Right. It's like, the only time I think it would be problematic is if you would take something like We Don't Care from the beginning of College Dropout and moving it to the last song. Maybe that still works, but, or like Spaceship. If Spaceship was the third to last song on College Dropout, it would feel weird. like it would throw a wrench in our entire, like there's a narrative on The College Dropout.
Right.
Because Spaceship is clearly like Kanye early on in his career, he hasn't been making music, but then the middle portion of the album is him in the industry. And the final portion of the album is him getting signed, like having the success. So if Spaceship was randomly in the middle there, it would throw off the entire organization. But
Yeah.
it's not always the case.
The other thing that might make it difficult to grasp the idea of there being a narrative thread here is the fact that, you know, in your head you think like, well, jail couldn't work at the end, like it can't end with Kanye in jail. But amazingly, even in this first run of songs, I'm thinking of Jail through Junia, which have very heavy ambient sounds. Like it feels like you're walking through like a graveyard the whole time. There's still some sense of like empowerment to those songs. Like Kanye is now on this new walk where he's in tune with God and feels protected by God. And so even though he feels, you know, trapped, confused, stressed out by life on earth, like God is always in his corner. So you could see, I guess I could see Jail ending an album, and this idea that like God's going to post your bail, just like keep being you. I mean, that's what I'm saying is like, it all just depends on the structure of the album and what Kanye's going for.
Right, you could go from Come to Life, like when I'm free, and then have Jail come through and have the tension of like, will he be in jail? Won't he be in jail? Like, does God come through and post his bail or not? Like, it doesn't eradicate the rest of the concept. It just, as we've been harping on, changes the tone of it.
Yeah. So, oh man, this is gonna be rough, Chris. We're gonna have to figure all this out.
I know, and all the features, and maybe there's not a lot of samples and a lot of references.
We still have to figure it out. I'm sure a lot of people haven't noticed a lot of them. Hopefully they keep being updated, like who sampled and everything.
Yeah, by the time we get to them, like, is there a sample on Jail that we won't know about until we're on remote control?
Oh gosh, we're gonna have to go back and do a redo episode if that happens.
Yeah, well, and then imagine if like the deluxe edition, or there is like a part 2 that's coming out as the rumors are talking about, and the track list is like completely different.
Oh boy.
Then we just tear down this episode.
Yeah, I guess so. Or we do a whole season of this version of Donda, then do another season on that version of Donda.
If only you could see my face, Travis.
I can see your face later when I look at the video.
Yeah. Oh man, that'd be something. So we'll see. We'll see. But those are the initial thoughts, with like main themes again being this idea of getting out of jail, renewal, rediscovering yourself, letting go of the past, which I think was reinforced by The Listening Party, the third one. And that you see Kanye have his childhood home. It feels like a funeral service going around. Everybody wearing black, the black cars. Like, you think about the drive from the funeral home to the cemetery. That's what the cars kind of reminded me of. And then Kanye was going to burn the house down, and then ended up not being able to do that. So then has this imagery of him walking into the house and setting himself on fire, which feels very biblical in the sense of cleansing through fire. This idea that water can like refresh you or baptize you, and that fire can baptize you. And Kanye's kind of choosing fire to show this being made new again, the idea of the phoenix, capturing that and letting go of these past issues that have haunted him, whether that's grief over his mom, anxiety over what happened in his marriage, mistakes that he had made in the past, which then also fits in with him finally filing to change his name to Ye.
Yeah.
And this idea that he's adopting like an entirely new concept and persona.
Yeah. It's interesting, like, because we know Ye means everyone, right?
Yep.
So this idea that he's really truly he's been slowly letting go of that ego now for like a few albums. But this idea, I mean, with him taking all of these issues and stresses he's been dealing with for years, like we talked about earlier on all of his albums, him finally dealing with all of that head on at once and coming out the other side, like it really does feel like that rebirth moment, like what he talked about on Ghost Town and becoming a kid again, on finally reaching that spiritual connection with God, like coming out on the other side and your name being Yay, and you finally living this life where you're in tune with the world, you're in tune with everyone, and you're living as your true fullest self. Like that is such a gigantic undertaking for an album to do. and I think the album being called Donda, like that's everything, because like she was the beginning for him. Like she was the one who created that life for him, and that's what this album really represents. It doesn't at first, and we talked about this on the first reactions episode, but like when I heard that the album was called Donda, and I think for the first few listening parties, I had an idea of what Donda would be as an album. Is like this tribute to his mom, as him finally dealing with the grief of losing his mom. And while that is part of it, like it's too simple to say like that's what Donda the album is. It's about that beginning. It's about finally becoming your truest self, like who Donda made you to be, and everything that's happening on the album like really does revolve around Donda, like his relationship with God, his divorce from Kim, his relationship with himself, like it all just stems from that. It's man, it's just so much to take on. I don't know how we're gonna do it.
One song at a time, one line at a time. Well, the thing with Donda as well that jumps out to me is a lot of her presence on the album is philosophical. It's educational. It's life advice and life lessons. And I feel like that's probably what he's channeling a lot of as well, is this idea of how do I improve, and remembering his mother's teachings and really starting to lean into those things and remembering like I'm my mother's son, right. Like this is who she raised me to be. It's a very Lion King album, you know?
I knew we'd get there.
Remember who you are is what Mufasa says to Simba. And it seems that Kanye is kind of channeling that for Donda.
Nice. So Donda is Mufasa.
Yes, very much. The names rhyme.
And Kanye's always been Simba, so that checks out.
He is a king. Well, anything else, or do we get to song rankings?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we're just covering the album here. There's like a bunch of other stuff that's been happening, like the mixing issues people have, but I guess we could talk about that as we get to the songs themselves. And those mixing issues could be fixed, even if they are issues in the first place. We'll talk about it in the episodes.
Perfect.
So yeah, song rank. I guess this is going to take a while, so we should do it.
Yeah.
Now, Chris, I have to know before I start this, is this a safe space? Because I tried this already on YouTube and I was torn to absolute threads.
Yeah, it's a safe space. You don't have to worry about me. Yeah, I don't know how, I didn't go back and watch your video because I wanted to be surprised. I don't know if you watched my video.
I did not, no.
I was getting a lot of, it wasn't too bad. I mean, there were some that were really bad. And people would just be like, there's a reason Lambert has an L in it. And
oh, yeah, I got a ton of L's.
Yeah, just a lot of L's. But for the most part, like, I think I placated with enough songs that it wasn't too bad. But there were some songs that people just kept coming back to, like, move it higher.
Yeah.
Move it higher. I'm like, no, why? No.
Yeah. It's tough because, like, we're at the beginning here and I haven't fully digested these songs, and I bet a lot of them I'll learn to love a lot more as we go through. But this first run through, like, a lot of my rankings are purely based on the music and, you know, the sonic nature of a song. And I think just my general leaning on Kanye's music, like from a sonic standpoint, diverges a bit from the general Kanye community. Or I guess we'll talk about it as we go through the songs, but some of the songs just I'm not as enthralled with as a lot of people are.
I get that. And it does seem to be an album that's a little, all over the place, is it right? But diverse in terms of if you're wanting something that's a little more like modern rap like Praise God,
Right.
or if you want something that's more of a vibe and atmospheric like 24, No Child Left Behind, those kinds of experiences. So you're going to have people that really gravitate to, I think, the earlier songs, and then people that really gravitate to the later songs, and those will clash.
Yeah. I guess one last thing I want to say before we go into this is we talked about in the first reactions episode how I had not really given the album a full listen at that point. And right before I did my sound rankings on YouTube, I sat down and listened to the whole album and was listening to it, like ranking the songs as I was sitting here at my computer. And that was my initial list. But even then, I didn't feel like it was a true full listen because like I was busy ranking the songs as I went, which isn't really how I listen to albums. Like I want to just like take it in as a whole. So yesterday when I went on my 21.65 mile run,
Jesus.
I popped on the album and I was able to listen to the album twice. I mean, it's so fucking long. I could only listen to it twice. But the first listen I had running, especially since like running's very meditative for me, and this is a very meditative album that isn't necessarily driven by drums a lot of the time, but like has like a lot of these ambient tones. Like and that's usually the kind of music I run to. I don't like music that's like super in your face or anything. So I was really able to consume this album in a much better way than I had at any point. And that was at the end of that first listen of it, like halfway through my run, I like totally got it. Like I understood this album completely. I mean, it basically became my favorite Kanye album as No Child Left Behind was closing out. And like, I'm literally crying while running and like sweating my ass off. Like it was a disgusting image, but everything made sense. And after that, like my sound ranking shifted quite a bit. So anybody listening who was so pissed at me for the first time, like just know I've got a new set of rankings here. They'll probably still piss you off, but some things might be better.
Yeah, I've shifted some things around from mine as well.
I'm excited to hear it.
I'm excited to get into it. Though not too much.
Mine's not like too crazy, but there are a few notable ones that I'll note when we get to them.
Yeah. Actually, I'm shifting some right now.
All right. You want me to go first then?
Yeah, kick it off.
All right. My bottom two, like I kind of took the easy route out and just like picked the songs that aren't really songs. So although I kind of have a feeling you won't do the same thing, but my number 23 is Tell the Vision, which is I also want to preface this. I think every single song on Donda is awesome. Like there's not a song I don't like.
Yeah.
So just everyone know that. I said that last time and it didn't matter. I still got a bunch of L's, but I like every single song. Your favorite song on this album? I like it. Okay. Tell the Vision. Everyone's ragging on this one. Like I think it sounds cool. I think the song's more on here for like emotional thematic reasons. Like Kanye, like either in that purgatory state or he's in heaven and like Pop Smoke is there. I don't know. I like that song. So but it'll be the bottom because it's not like a song.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because it feels unfinished in just like it's, to me, like the intro is weird to it and how it just kind of ends is also a little weird. It's just a little jarring every time it comes on, but I always feel like there's potential for it. I always feel like I'm getting a little more into it. It just never quite goes anywhere. And I agree, it does feel thematic, right?
Right.
In that Jesus, Lord, New Again, Tell the Vision, Lord, I Need You, Pure Souls. There's something about what Pop Smoke represents. I mean, we even have Donda on the album, so you have somebody else that's kind of up above, looking down, maybe like passing on some knowledge or passing on some attitude that Kanye can kind of channel and pick up on. I think there's reasons to make arguments for it, but just, yeah, I
think it's more of
it's a little bit weird
structural issue for me. Like I like thematically, I see why it fits there, but it feels like a song out of left field in the sonically in this part of the album. And like you said, it's so short that it never gets the chance to go anywhere. So it just feels like an interlude, but an interlude that doesn't fit. It would be like if All of the Lights interlude didn't cleanly lead into All of the Lights or something.
Yeah, even like Frank's track feels more appropriate. Like I love Kanye, Frank's track, Silver Surfer intermission.
Right.
Like, all right. Yeah, Television's 23 for me too.
Oh, okay. You sounded surprised when I put it at 23.
Yeah, just trying to build up hype, you know?
Okay, this next one might surprise you. Well, no, it won't, because I already basically said what it would be. But number 22 for me is Donda Chant.
Okay.
Which I love. I can't wait to talk about it. I think, God, do I even want to tease what I think the song's doing this early? Or should we wait?
I was just thinking, do I want to rant about what the song's not doing?
The heartbeat thing?
The heartbeat thing.
Yeah.
It bothers me.
So you want to explain that really quick, just so everyone knows what it is?
Okay. So apparently on TikTok, two big theories got going about Donda chants. One is that Donda is said 58 times and she passed away at 58 years old. And two is that how Donda is said mimics her heartbeats leading up to her death. Oh. So the rapid heart rate, the slowing down of the hearts, all of that. Are either of those things in line with your theory, Travis?
Not quite. I guess I was going to say that I didn't know it was her heartbeat as she was dying. I thought maybe it was just a heartbeat, which, like, I maybe don't agree with that, but I like how this just random opener, which, you know, Donda's name just being said over and over, that's just an idea, and that could not be that interesting to listen to, but it is interesting to listen to. And the way her name is said, like, it's so image-inducing. Like, it's so beautiful and musical in a way that you would never expect this to be. And it's a very, like, intimate moment, too. And that's the thing I thought of was, like, repeating the name, like, calling for someone, almost like some sort of seance. And I did a little research, which gave me PTSD from our Jesus is King days, where I was reading the Bible nonstop. And when names are repeated in the Bible, it's a form of, like, it's always to represent a connection between God. Like, God will say someone's name more than once. And it's this establishment of a connection, of intimacy, of reaching through this, like, nether region and, like, something very spiritual. So that's what I was thinking, like, might be happening here.
Yeah, I think the key word is chant, right?
Right.
And the idea of how chant is meditative, it is connected to prayer, it's connected to summoning, and it feels like it's connected to music as well. So I feel like that's probably the better way of looking at it. And to get to the two theories, Donda's name said 60 times, not 58. So that theory immediately goes out the window.
Did you count that, or did someone tell you that?
I counted.
Okay, good.
I counted.
That's the kind of work we do
Genius.
Here.
Yeah, Genius also has 60, where I imagine Genius would be special enough or extra enough to count and have the appropriate number of Dondas. So 60 is the number, not 58. And then there's no reason then to assume that it's like the heartbeat as she dies when it's called Donda Chant.
Right.
So there's really no foundation. There's not something in the song, like throughout the album, where Kanye says, like, my mama's heart beats, or something that you could kind of, like, connect to. If there was something on the album to support it, and even if her name was said 58 times, I could see the connection between, like, it's the age of her death, yada, yada, yada. So to me, it's just kind of getting more at what you said, something spiritual, something connective in that capacity.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest blow to the whole heartbeat argument is the fact that we don't buy into it.
Right. We buy into everything.
we think Kanye's doing everything all the time.
Yeah, and I've talked about how it's similar to Say You Will. Sure. People every so often bring up the theory, but they state it as fact, that the heartbeat monitor sound that you hear on Say You Will is supposed to be indicative of Kanye's mom, and the song's about, like, his mom passing.
I've never heard that.
Have you not?
Maybe we talked about it in the episode, but yeah. Oh gosh,
I think we talked
we
about
must
it.
have. But I chucked it out of my memory because that sounds so ridiculous.
Yeah, because the song's about him, like, not daydreaming since it's nighttime, but him imagining hooking up with an ex, and it's just about this relationship that he's lost, like a romantic relationship that he's lost. And we know that the whole album, well, 95% of the album deals with him and Alexis Pfeiffer breaking up. And it's much more likely the heart rate monitor is indicative of this relationship coming to an end or being on life support, like that kind of thing, rather than his mom. So it's just this second time that these rumors about an aspect of a song on an album go viral, and people start to buy into it when it's just like, no. That's not. It sounds cool. It sounds interesting, but that's not how this actually.
Right.
It's not how this actually works.
Let Chris and I be your guides. Like, just follow us. We're right.
We'll be your Virgil through the inferno.
Oh my God, we're only on 22, Chris. Like, we just spent 10 minutes talking about 1 and 3 songs.
Okay. We can pick up the pace. What's your 22?
I just Donda chant.
You did it. Okay. Junior. I have Junior down at 22.
I had a feeling you would put this, and again, I did not watch your video, but I in my head was like, I bet Chris puts like Junior or another song I'm thinking of below Donda chant.
Yeah, that's
like
the
it.
one. That's the one. I just don't find the same complaints I had about Television I have about Junior, where I like the concept. It kind of grows on me each time, but it just doesn't feel full enough. It doesn't feel developed enough. I think Junior Part 2's a little bit more of what I'm looking for.
Oh yeah, that verse is great. From
Just having Ty Dolla $ign, and it was the same thing with Remote Control. Like, Remote Control at the second listening party that had Cuddy on it felt stronger to me than just the version that actually ended up on the album. But I just, while Junior's like pretty catchy, it's just not doing much else to me. That it's not the soundscape that I like. It doesn't have thematic stuff that I'm that into. Though when I was listening to it today, there was stuff at the end that started to feel a lot more thematic and a lot more connective, that I was like, all right, we're going to have to dig into this.
Yeah.
And there might be something here that's meaningful in a transitory way or in the main theme kind of way that makes a song a little more thematically relevant.
Yeah, I think it mostly fits into that first part sonically, which makes it, I mean, it fits it with the theme of the album that way, like of the idea of not knowing how to deal with your emotions or feeling angry or latching onto these like trivial things. I don't know. Like it feels built into the early part of the album sound, which I like. I mean, I do like the thumping nature of that song. Like you could see people bumping it in their car and be like, yeah, and like, I don't know, it sounds good, but I'd have to agree with you, which is why it's my number 21 song.
All right. I got Donda Chan at 21.
Oh, okay. So we've covered those 3 songs are both of our bottom 3s.
That's pretty wild. And it's nothing against Donda Chant. Like, I actually think Donda Chant is like more interesting than the other 2, to me. But it's just, it can't rank higher when it's not as much of a song.
Yeah, so we're both on the same page on that. So my number 20 is the same issue I have with Junior, and it's probably the only other song on the album I think is this way, where like, it sounds good. Like, you know, I like that slow build up at the beginning, like it's very haunting and cinematic, and it's really like setting a mood. And I like how confrontational Kanye's being, and I like Lil Yachty's verse. Like, I like everything about it, but it's one of the songs, or sorry, Okay is my number 20. I start talking about the song without naming it.
Yeah.
It just never goes to that next place that I think pretty much every other song on the album does, which is tough for a song like this, because these first run of songs here, like the first 9 songs, they aren't really driven by drums, and their structure is not what we're used to in hip hop. It's very bass synth and like it ambient heavy. Like there's not a lot of like sounds. There's not a lot of drums driving anything. So these songs that kind of like steep in a single sound. So when that's the case, like you really need to do a lot of work to make it musically interesting, I think. And I just don't think OK is doing it, just like I don't think Junior's really doing it.
That okay. I mean, do you like OK Part 2 more than Part 1, or do you think the OG version just both suffer the same problem?
Probably both suffer the same problem, but I like them both because I love Lil Yachty's verse. I love the woman what's her name?
On the second part, it's Shensia.
Yeah, that's a great verse. I mean, again, I like seemingly everything about it, but I just don't think it does as much as a lot of the other songs in the album.
That's fair. I find just the refrain like very catchy.
Oh yeah, it's catchy as hell.
My number 20 is Donda.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And same kind of thing. Like, I just don't think that it's quite doing enough as a song. Like, it's a really lovely transition, and it brings in a lot of like beautiful music and concepts. But I just don't want to put it on the same way that I want to put on like the actual songs.
Yeah.
So
I could definitely see that, but we'll talk more about it when I get to it, I guess.
yeah.
Number 19 for me is New Again, which is a cool song. I like the uplifting nature of that choir. And as much as I don't like Chris Brown, he plays well on Kanye songs, and I actually like him on this. Like, he actually sticks out of the choir, which is incredible for like one voice to be so prominent. And I do think it's a very purposeful song for the narrative, but it's more of a subjective thing. Like, it's just not my favorite kind of Kanye song.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
Although I do over and over go, "Make me new again." I say it all the time.
That's going to enter the lexicon.
Yeah, go for it. I don't care.
No, like your lexicon of just things you say a lot.
Oh, I thought you meant the lexicon of people making videos about us singing lines from the...
Oh, no, yeah. If people are going to remix New Again with you on it, I'm here for it.
Make me new again. Make me new again. Oh, God, that was really bad.
It was it was very emotional.
I felt it.
My 19, and I broke these into 3 tiers. So
okay,
this is my tier 3 of songs. It's 19, and then we have 2 more that are in tier 3.
Okay.
No Child Left Behind. I'm sorry, Travis. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I can see it being at the bottom of a list.
It's very pretty. It's very like inspiring. I love it as the conclusion to this album. It's just one of those things that, again, I like the songs that are more songy ahead of it.
Yeah, right. That's okay. I have songs lower that I know you love, so we can fight about that later.
Yeah.
Number 18 for me is Keep My Spirit Alive.
Okay.
Love the drums. The drums, actually, it made me think that it's interesting to think that this song is the direction the album could have gone, where it's not so ambient and it is like more traditional, and it has a more Jesus is King energy, while also having like a Yeezus-y soundscape. Like, I could see it like fitting into that first part of the album almost. With that said, I like the sound of the album that is. Like, I like the ambient sounds. So while I like the feel of the song, I can't say I love it as much as the songs around it. I think it fits really well, though, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Nice. That's how I kind of feel about my 18. Just in terms of, I think it fits really well. But I'm more excited about what else is around it, and that's 24.
Okay. Yeah, you got some shit for this one, right?
I did, because it's a very beautiful song. It's just like my major complaint as somebody that likes like maximal verses and a lot of verses is just it feels not quite on the same level as some of the other tracks. Like, you do have an interesting Kanye verse, and thematically there's a lot going on here. I think it's a very important song to the album. It's just I'm not as excited about it as I am the other tracks.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, why, Donda, No Child Left Behind, and this would be so low. It's like it's that simple. Like, they're not really songs.
Yeah, they're moods, they're vibes, and for some people that's what they're looking for. But
yeah, which is what I'm looking for, and I agree with you to a certain extent. Like, if it's not a song, it almost has like more work to do to rise up. But if it does like break through and transcend in a way, and fits and like brings out something new in the album, like that's when it clicks for me. So that's why the songs you've listed are probably up higher for me.
It kind of like Streetlights, right? Streetlights is one of those songs. It doesn't have the typical structure. It doesn't have the typical movement that you'd expect. And I can imagine some people being like, I don't like it as much as the other Kanye songs I like. And then other people, Streetlights is...
Yeah, it's everything.
Just a transcendent, yeah.
Okay, my number 17. Now, this is one, I would say up to this point, well, I got shit for not liking Junia and OK, which I knew would happen. But this was the first one that I think people got really mad at me about. So my number 17 was Heaven and Hell.
Ooh, okay.
It's a song I'm really torn on. I feel like I'm in the same place you are for like Donda and No Child Left Behind. Like, I like the places it goes, like, and it blows up and hits hard, and I love the garat-tat-tats. Like, I love seeing those come back. But I guess it feels more like an album track to me that's a transition point and isn't fully like a song in a way, and it just doesn't transcend enough for me to... Like, I know it does for some people because Kanye's verse goes fucking hard, and they love to hear Kanye rap, but I like so many things about Kanye beyond the rapping, and like it just doesn't go to that next level for me.
I get what you're saying. That was one of the things, and I'll get to what I like later, but it was one of the things that kind of tripped me up when I first heard Donda, because we got to Heaven and Hell, and I was like, oh man, here we go. And when it ended, I kind of stopped. It was like, wait, wasn't there more? And I went to my Listening Party 2 files and played Heaven and Hell, and was like, no, it's the same thing. And there was something during the second listening party where it felt immense. It had the same kind of energy to me as Jesus Lord, God Breathed, in terms of just standing on the shoulders of the other songs and kind of rising above, and how big it felt. And it still has that moment of crescendo, which I think is why so many people love it. It just kind of feels a little truncated.
Right. Yeah, it definitely was supported by the visuals of that show, and like Kanye like firing the gun with his hands and like all the people around and everything.
Yeah, but we have a while till we talk about it again. My number 17, and it could fall under 24 and No Child Left Behind, I don't know, is Remote Control. And that's the end of my like tier 3. It's still growing on me. This and Junia are still rising in my estimations, but I'm still like, with this one, it's a little more difficult because we heard the Cudi version.
Right.
And I really loved the Kid Cudi version. Just having the song go to that extra gear, going to that extra place, it did what I needed it to do for me to like it. And having that removed, I'm getting more into aspects of it to where I'm like, okay, I now look forward to that part. I look forward to that part. But it still has these moments throughout where I'm just kind of waiting for it to do the next thing.
Yeah. So you're not a fan of Glab?
I'm actually, I don't mind it. I kind of like it.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah. The thing I'm curious to get into, and we haven't made a video on this yet, and maybe we should have, the theory of where Kanye got it from.
Oh yeah, we should.
Yeah, because that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Okay, I'm excited to talk about remotes later. But moving on to number 16. Man, okay, so I think we're now officially in, like, I've liked every song we've listed, but from here on out, like, I really love pretty much every song. and it was really difficult for me to rank these. Like, I moved these around so much. So number 16 for me is Praise God.
Okay.
I love hearing Donda there, and like that haunting choir coming in with Donda. Like, it's so cool, and like that hoarse voice. It's listed as Travis Scott on Genius, but I thought it sounded like Kanye. But I just love that part, and it's a very, very cinematic song. Like this and a couple others, like God Breathe. Like, they're the most cinematic Kanye's ever been, I feel like. And there are like so many movements in the song. Like, the music blows up these insane, like, different levels, and that same haunting sound like kind of holds in the background, going up and down the whole time. There's these ghostly chants. It's the song that most to me feels like walking through a graveyard, and I just think it's incredible that he can draw that kind of imagery out of a song.
Nice. Yeah, it's one that I had lower in my initial list, and that I've listened to a few times the last couple days, and it just keeps rising higher.
Yeah.
So it would have been like in the next couple that we talk about, and instead it's been bumped up a number. For my 16, I have Keep My Spirit Alive.
Yeah, so those are pretty close for us.
Yeah, it's one where I like the features. I think Casey does a great job, as well as like Gunn and Conway. It's cool. I just don't get as into it as the others, but it's above Remote Control and 24 and all the rest, because I do think it's more of a built-out song.
Yeah, right.
But it's just not quite as exciting to me as the ones that are higher.
Right. 15 for me is 24. So
okay.
It's a song I think it does transcend. Like, I love how I think my favorite part of this song is how Kanye is getting way more experimental and playful with like traditional gospel sounds, where on Jesus is King, it kind of felt like he was making his own gospel vibe, like of stuff like Closed on Sunday. Like, that sounds like unlike anything I've ever heard before. But yeah, here right. He's just playing with like organ and choir, and it feels like a song that's being like pieced together in the moment. And I don't know, I find it to be a very heartwarming song, very uplifting. Like, Kanye's on that ultra light beam level. It reminds me of No Child Left Behind. Like, it's doing a lot of awesome stuff that I think transcends it to being more than just like a pivot song.
I get that.
But still, number 15. I mean, it's not even the top half for me.
Right, which is kind of wild as well. And then my 15's Okay.
Okay.
And mostly,
okay,
I could see Keep My Spirit Alive going higher. I think I had Okay lower before and lifted it up because I have been finding myself like going back to it more often, singing it more often. I think Ruga and Yachty go great. And Kanye's verse, I think, is going to be one that's fascinating just because it seems to me to be so about Drake.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of comes off as his first diss verse in a lot of ways. I know he talks about Drake a little bit on Pure Souls, but this feels like a diss track from Kanye to Drake. And he's talked about how he hasn't done diss tracks before and doesn't do that kind of thing, and here he is. So it's a little momentous for that reason. But I like the concept of it too, that he's kind of getting into friends leaving him and feeling backstabbed and kind of having this ego, but also having this sense of not being able to trust the people around him.
Right.
That helps develop a lot of the atmosphere, I think, or plays into a lot of the atmosphere of that first act. So it comes in at 15.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm going to grow to love it when we actually talk about it. Now, number 14 for me, I feel weird about this one because on the surface, like, it's a song I feel like I should love, and I feel like a lot of people do love, and it's a very climactic song on the album. But 14 for me is Pure Souls.
Ooh. Yeah. Okay.
And funny enough, I mean, like, I should love it. It's the song that most reminds me of Ghost Town, where it has all these different parts and all different kinds of voices going in different ranges, and it's very upbeat and it's got a nice, pretty melody, and it has a ton of great lines. Like, devil get behind me, I'm loose, I'm free. I've said like a million times since I heard this song. It's a song that puts a smile on my face. I love the outro. I have to say about the outro, everyone's complaining about that crackling that happens at the end, you know? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I haven't paid attention to it at all.
If you listen to it like on your headphones or whatever and you turn it up a bit, like at the end, they're saying that the woman's voice, I think it's a woman, right? Let's look. Sounds like a woman, but I haven't checked to see who it actually is.
Oh yeah, it's Shinsia.
Oh yeah. Like the vocals are slow blown out that you start to hear this like crackling, and people are saying it's mixed badly. I actually think it makes sense, and it seems ridiculous that would actually be the case. It's almost like her voice is so powerful, and it's such a climactic moment in the album that you're kind of bursting through the seams. Anyway, that's what I think about it. Come argue with me if you disagree. So yeah, I like everything about it, but I guess the only reason I have it lower is I'm not sure all of those pieces come together in a way like Ghost Town does. Like it feels like it should be more of an uplifting song. Like I cried when I heard Ghost Town, and I don't know, Pure Souls just doesn't hit me that way for some reason.
Pure Souls is one that I thought would be one of the standouts on the album.
Yeah.
Like one of the most beloved just because of that, like the bop that it has. But yeah, it ended up not rising all that high. Like it's still in tier 2 for me. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like it has a lot of cool elements. It has like a cool vibe, but does it quite transcend into that upper level?
Yeah. But again, maybe when we talk about it, I'll see the light.
Yeah. I have New Again at 14.
Make me new again.
Which, that could actually go lower. Like, I keep harping on like actual songs, and like there's something about like Keep My Spirit Alive and Okay Okay that feel a little larger to me. But New Again, just like the beat right now, the chorus, I keep finding myself going back to it or thinking about it more often than Okay Okay and Keep My Spirit Alive.
Yeah, sure. Okay, number 13. Love this song. I love corny Kanye. I love a song for wifey. So 13 is Lord, I Need You. It's a very important song in the album. Like Kanye trying to learning to move on and paying tribute to the woman he's loved for years. Somebody who grounded him so much and gave him love when he really needed love. It's not a super impressive song, like production wise. Like it's a pretty simple song, but I think it's supposed to be simple because it's more about the lyrics and so like lyrically, thematically in terms of Kanye's life, it's like one of the most important songs of his career, probably. But I guess it just doesn't rise higher for me because I almost, when I compare it to the other wifey songs like FML, Wolves, Wouldn't Leave, like I love the lyrics of this so much, but I just think as a song, it doesn't quite reach those songs level.
Yeah, I have Lord, I Need You at the same spot.
Oh, nice.
I actually just moved it down one based on what you're saying and like going back and looking at it. And it's like, I do like the concept, everything that you're saying. The verse is emotional. I like Kanye's delivery and some of the lines, but it actually could end up going a little lower too.
I love Kanye singing on it though. It's great.
It is. Ooh. Just got a dry spot in my throat.
You're good.
It is. He has some great singing. So we'll see where that ends up.
Yeah.
But yeah, very thematically relevant and like I think a key bit of insight into Kanye looking to move forward, coming to terms with things.
It's also a song that like reminds you that they're just normal people who fight. Like you have just this idolized image of them too, and like you just forget like they fight like anyone else. I don't know. I found it charming, kind of. All right, number 12 for me. I had this down at number 16 during my YouTube rankings, and this was the moment people went apeshit on me and really laid into me. And I kind of didn't live it down for the rest of the video. Like this just kept coming up. But 12 for me is Off the Grid.
Ooh.
It's
Damn.
I technically it's an outstanding track. Like the beat hits hard. Cardi and Fivio. Is it Fivio or Fivio? I say Fivio.
I've been saying Fivio.
Oh, okay.
I've been hearing other people say Fivio, but
Okay. Then it's probably Fivio. Like their flows are totally different, but they work so well for like that clapping background. And Kanye's verse is awesome. Like I love the way the song has built from listening party to listening party. And as much as people are praising Fivio, like I think Kanye kind of bodies both of them. Like I love Kanye's verse in that. I think probably more what it is for me is while I technically like it and I do love the way it builds, it isn't doing much in the background. Like there's these quieter ambient textures of other songs like are doing a lot more, but this song is more driven by the vocals and like what they're doing. And I think as not somebody who grew up on hip hop, like that's not necessarily like what I gravitate towards. Like I like a great verse. Like I like somebody who can rap well. But I just kind of want a little more. And I feel like there are other songs doing a lot more with their ambient textures. So I think there's just like a surface, like a basic foundational thing, like that I have a disconnect with that other people gravitate towards, because I think of all of Kanye's songs so far in his career, like this is the most in tune with like modern hip hop. So I think people really gravitated towards this because of that, because it is so good at that. But I just think maybe I'm just into a different kind of music is all it is.
I'm just going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say you'll come around one day.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. And this is not a good complaint. This will make me sound basic, but like it's almost too dense. Like I'm having trouble wrapping my head around it a little bit. So the episode will help.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying about the background. I think it's the same issue Jordan has had with this album. It's something that I've mentioned in a few places, that it doesn't feel that in the earlier portions of this album, or for a lot of the album, that production is as much of a focus. Where a lot of the emphasis is on the musicality of the features and the voices, where the background is kind of just like the music, or a lot of the background elements that are usually so rich and diverse in Kanye albums. Just thinking back to like Graduation, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Yeezus, you have all of these elements that you can kind of point to a lot of the time, where for some of these songs, there's not much going on.
Right. It's not as showy.
Way. Yeah. And so Off the Grid is one that has this like cool beat that's going on, but it's not one where the production is really going wild the same way as Blood on the Leaves.
Yeah. And I think I've always just had trouble getting into songs like that, like these sort of posse cuts that are, I mean, the song's almost like 6 minutes long. So you really have to deliver. And they all do. But it's, I even love Monster. And I still think Monster is like one of my lesser favorite tracks on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. It's the way it goes with me, I guess.
Yep. I ranked this one higher before, and now it's down to 12. And I just found myself, while initially impressed with it, not being as excited about it when it comes on. And maybe maybe that'll turn around. I think it might. I think it will, especially when we do the episode on it. But it's not going to be popular. I have Moon at 12.
Moon. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But I got to say, though, that's not surprising to me with you. Like, that doesn't strike me as a song you would love.
Yeah. Like, the concept of it.
Right.
I'm into. There's just something about the Cudi verse helps a lot. Too. If it was without the Cudi verse, it would be much lower in my rankings.
I would be on the same page.
With the Cudi verse, it rises, and it still could go higher. Like right now, being at 12, kind of the midpoint, I could see it rising higher, and I could see it falling like a little lower. It just depends on like how much I get into it.
I don't know how you could be such a cruel monster to such a beautiful song, but that's okay.
It is beautiful.
We'll talk about it when I get to mine. But my number 11, okay, so this is where, you putting it Moon at 12 is like me putting this on at number 11, I think.
Oh, is it Come to Life?
No, God Breathed.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna end this episode now. No,
I have nothing.
I don't even have God Breathed at number 1.
Oh, really? I thought that would be your number 1. Okay. Well, a little tease there.
Yep.
Yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about the song, by the way. Like, very, very cinematic. I love it. We're really going to get into the nitty gritty of the soundscape of this song, I think, when we get into the episode, because the way Kanye's like playing with his voice and the way he's kind of like fading in and out of the background, how he's like forceful and in your face in some spots, and in some spots he feels like trapped and lost. I don't know. There's a lot going on. And then Vori has to be the star of this album, right? Like, feature wise.
Yeah.
Like, that dude is all over the place. And every time he's on a song, like, he's incredible. The way he's commanding that song and like vibing with the creepy energy of the song, it like makes Kanye feel even more lost because Vori's voice is so out front. And the outro, that haunting choir at the end, like, it reminds me of 808s. I mean, this song just, it does so many things. I think my only hesitancy is it's doing so many things. Like, it's covering so much ground that I wonder how much I'll like it, like, as a song, but because it's doing all those things, like, I'm kind of enamored by it.
What's curious is I know that some of the songs that you're going to have higher up have that ambient quality. And I feel like this is one of those songs that kind of mixes both hip hop elements and ambient elements. I would have imagined that would have, gilded your lily a little bit more.
I like that phrase. It was my number 5 in the YouTube rankings. I think, and you're totally right. Like, I love the ambient parts of this song. And I even like, that long extended outro where nothing's happening. Like, I love it. I think other songs just revealed them. I just like them more.
Okay. Well, I just take this as God Breathed will eventually rise back up.
I think it could. Like I said, I had it at number 5, so it could get all the way back up there.
Yep. My number 11 is Pure Souls.
Okay.
Which that beat is still like so infectious, which is why it goes over Moon. But I'm debating right now if I could put like Moon back top over it. So we'll see. But yeah, Pure Souls is one that just has such a bounce to it, such a bop to it. I love the kind of the happy energy that Kanye's channeling on it. And the truth is only what you get away with is a very catchy phrase. So we'll see. But I do think the outro is maybe a little long. That's one of the things that it starts to get me. I wish it was 30 seconds less, 20 seconds less.
That was kind of why I made the comparison to Ghost Town. Like, it isn't quite what Shake does. Like, the whole time Shake is doing that outro, you're just into it. Where Pure Souls, like, it sounds very pretty and sounds very good. But yeah, it never like takes that next step.
No, it doesn't. Like, Ghost Town builds to that climactic, like, put my hand to the stove to feel if that's the focus of this. And Kanye's verse is the focus of Pure Souls.
Right.
And it just feels like a extended decline of energy.
Yeah, I think the way you're phrasing it makes me realize probably why I just haven't been able to get into it as much as other people.
Yeah.
Okay. We're in top 10 territory, Chris. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. From here on out, the top 10 songs on Donda, which I have already said is probably my favorite Kanye album at this point, and Kanye's my favorite artist, so I love every single one of these songs, and this was not easy. Especially number 10. I mean, I love this song, but my number 10 is Believe What I Say.
Ooh, okay.
Absolutely gorgeous, like this wash of like beautiful sunny vocals, poppy atmosphere and instrumentation. It's the kind of song like I really love. Like it doesn't really sound like a college dropout song because it's so much more complex than what Kanye was doing at that point in his career, but like it kind of has that vibe. like there's something hopeful and uplifting about it. Where especially in this part of this album where he's trying to move forward from the confusion and the madness, yet there's also like a tinge of like confidence to it and ego, you know, like it's just so cool, all the different things he's mixing into the song, but just the way it sounds, I mean, this song just sounds incredible.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, the how beautiful this is and how it is kind of a throwback. I mean, ever since he put it on Twitter, people have just been clamoring and excited for this song. So the fact that it surprised us by making the album after not appearing at the first, was it even played during the Chicago listening party?
Yeah, it was played at Chicago. Okay, that's why everyone was freaking out.
Really...
Yeah, it was kind of hard to hear.
Yeah. Okay. I have Praise God at number 10.
Okay.
There's just something about the soundscape of it, the diversity of it. I feel like it's one of the songs that is doing a little bit more like production wise and instrumentation wise, rather than just kind of having the single element in the background and having that diversity of voices and how they're kind of bouncing around off of each other. It just feels very, as well as God Breathed, very Yeezus-y to me. And I'm getting more into the features. I think I initially had it a little bit lower because Kanye doesn't do as much on this song relative to Baby Keem, and I tend to like more Kanye than other artists on a song, but I don't know, it's just the whole thing's like clicked for me the other day, and has been rising in my estimation.
I completely agree. It's a song that like once you lock into it, you see what it's doing and it works.
Yeah.
All right. Number 9 for me. I can't even believe I'm about to say this. Number 9. This could be the 9th best song ever made. Number 9 for me is Jail.
Okay. I got that at 8.
Okay. Way to give it away.
Yeah.
I love everything about it, though. Those like hard synths or 808s, whatever it is, you know, they come in really hard after the Donda chant. Like, I think that's a cool transition. And it also reminds me, as an intro, it reminds me of Ultra Light Beam, how Kanye's like there with the choir, but he's not really like the main star of the song. Jay is the one that comes in and like kind of sets the tone thematically, which is cool. And I just like, and the whole song, how that sets the tone for the mouse, and musically too, like the production's like deceptively simple. Like it just kind of steeps in a single sound, yet there's like all this fluctuation going on in the background. There's like a guitar or a synth or something going on the whole time that's moving up and down. Like it just sounds so cool. And then the drums in the outro are just fucking awesome. Like creating this image of being in jail. Like this song's just got it all. And of course we get that verse from Jay, which is, I mean, Jay's the best. Holy shit.
He does crush it. I know there are people saying that they didn't like the Jay verse, but I just think it's such a Jay-Z experience of him doing some of his best things, but also him really, it's a different kind of flow that I'm used to from Jay. I think it's very dynamic and interesting the way he's creating space for himself and changing up rhythms at times. It feels very simple but complex. Like it feels like something you can't do until you're like the rapper with the experience that Jay-Z has at this point.
We sound like boomers right now. Yeah, I totally agree. Like that's why I prefer it over to Baby, who of course is like incredibly talented and does a great job. But I think you and I both would probably gravitate towards someone who like makes better use of the space and does more with less, like, which is what I think Jay does. Like he communicates so much and he means so much to Kanye. Like the power that's coming from him in this first song, like it just isn't the same with the Baby.
Yeah, like the Baby, just looking at what he did in the song, it's still hard to like enjoy. I feel the same way about the Baby as I do Chris Brown at this point. To where I get torn between the art and the artist, right? And my feelings about DaBaby and everything with Rolling Loud and the stuff that he said and how that just plays into how I try to listen to what he's doing, and just then listening to what he's doing and being like, okay, there's a good flow. He's on point with the subject matter. I can see why people are preferring this verse to Jay's verse, but there's just something, it feels much more difficult to me about Jay's verse and much more dynamic.
It's just so much more emotional too, to think like this album's about Kanye and his divorce, and there's elements of Jay's bringing those elements in. Like, we know he had problems with Beyonce and the decisions he made. Like, he's working through a lot as well. I don't know. There's just it's just heartwarming to hear Jay and a Kanye song, and he just brings out something different.
Well, and you know too that Kanye has been like, this would be a low point for Kanye in terms of, all right, my marriage has ended, like I'm going back into things. Having Jay kind of step up despite the issues that they've had over the last few years, and say like, I'm gonna be here for my brother in this time of need, is nice to see. So there's all the context that you get from that as well that you don't get with DaBaby.
Yeah, right.
With DaBaby, the only context is Na Na Na,
which we love.
No, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
You don't like Na Na Na?
I
love that song.
I go back and forth. But I would say Jail, one of the standout things to me, and you mentioned Ultralight Beam, it does feel very much in that way of setting the table.
Right.
Of this is one of the major themes, which is another reason why, like, getting back to what we were talking about however long ago, with the idea of like, oh, does the theory of a narrative not work because Jail was at the end and at the beginning? Like with Ultralight Beam, it seems to be more of the tone setter. It's more of something that is conveying this idea that's essential to the album, but can work at the beginning or the end.
Right.
It feels very cinematic as a wide shot.
Yeah.
That's just giving you the landscape, and you can end with a wide shot like that, or you can start with a wide shot like that, but it still gives that sense of like place and theme, etc.
Love it.
I do like how Jay goes on like a run of just referencing like On Site, Hell of a Life, and Yikes at the end.
It's like both corny and great. Like, it's kind of adorable to hear him just squeeze in it as much as he can.
That's Jay in a nutshell.
I love it.
At number 9, I have Jonah.
Okay. That's my number 8, so we can talk about it at the same time.
Perfect. Look at that. Vori stands out here again. Man. Both with the chorus and the verse. Yeah, he's just crushing it, right?
Wow, I got to go listen to his shit.
I listened to one of his songs when after the first listening party, and I was like, this is good. Like, I'm into what he's doing.
Yeah.
And then Jonah is the story of the whale, the guy in the Bible that gets swallowed by the whale. But there's a lot more to Jonah in terms of loss of faith and redemption of faith that the story kind of gets into. So I think it's like thematically very important. And I like what everybody's doing on the song. I like the landscape production wise of the song. It's just one that I'm excited about every time it comes on.
Yeah. Yeah. You know Jonah's, who it's specifically referring to, right?
Jonah Hill?
I wish. Jonah Ware, who was a musician who was killed by gun violence.
Wait, really?
Yeah. And so that's why, I mean, you're totally, I think that's really interesting what you're bringing up with Jonah. Like, that could inherently be part of it. And I like that twist to it. But I think on the simpler level, thinking that, because it's a song that deals with gun violence and feeling trapped in society, and like this anger that comes out of, you know, the loneliness, the alienation, the confusion, the hope, like all these things that can come from losing people in your life to gun violence. Like, all of these different emotions are being communicated by Vori, by Lil Durk, by Kanye. Like, they all go to these different levels and bring this beautiful whole together that, like, I think it might be the most emotional song in the album, because Lil Durk's like talking about how he lost his brother to gun violence, and thinking how that fits in with Kanye, like, and how, you know, he's trying to like work past like all these things in his life while at the same time like feeling trapped by society, but as both like a man and musician, but like as a black man. And I don't know, like there's just so much going on in the song at once that I think is so important to the album, and it just sounds beautiful too.
Okay, so this was the one that was initially a Vori song that Vori brought to Kanye, and Kanye decided to use for the album. Okay. This is why we do the show.
But I like any song called Jonah, like you got to think Kanye, if it's a direct Bible reference, like it has to do something with that.
Yeah.
Or is Jonah, is that in the Bible or is that just a story?
No, it's in the Bible.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't know the Bible that well.
Yeah, we're about to learn more about it.
Okay.
That's for sure. Cool. Okay. Interesting. That's good context. What's your... Okay, so that's 9 and 8, so we're on to 7?
Yes. 7 for me. I was actually just sitting here shifting a couple things around. This was a little higher for me, but I moved it from 6 to 7, and my number 7 is Donda.
Oh,
I love this song to death. Like, to me, this one transcends musically in a way that it becomes more than just like a transitionary song, you know? To me, this is like a great display of Kanye's skills as a producer. Like, he doesn't even rap on the song, yet it so feels like a Kanye song. And the way it builds and builds and builds to this climactic moment where Donda's voice comes out of nowhere, and then the choir comes in and it's like trying to reach up to Donda in heaven. Like, it's so image-inducing and so emotional. It feels like this moment where Kanye is truly communicating with Donda, and to bring like that desperation, like that desire to reach your mom out in musical form, like I think Kanye does it. And so to me, this song, like, it moves me in a way that a lot of the other songs on the album don't.
That is a beautiful pitch for why I should lift it up in my rankings.
Yeah, it's tough because, like you said, like it's not exactly a song. It's just something that I think you have to be vibing with on that sonic level to get.
I will say that chorus does get to me, like the Tony Williams in Sunday Service, like, it's the kingdom, it's the kingdom, and the power, and the power.
But every time this song plays, because I've just been playing it over and over in my household, and my wife has to put up with it, when that part plays, we repeat the lines just like you were doing.
And the glory, and the glory.
It's so, you feel like you're floating up to heaven.
That is really nice. All right. My number 7, which is the start of my tier 1.
Okay.
Is Heaven and Hell.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So there's such a crescendo on Heaven and Hell, such a build up and such a pop of power. I just can't get over how cool I think that is. It reminds me in some ways of Selah. Is that how we're saying it? Selah. In terms of having this kind of epic, large energy to it that's kind of combative, and the way that Kanye just kind of builds on this song to having that, I don't know what it is, just a sense of power, control. I won't be held down. I'm going to transcend. I'm very much into it.
Oh yeah, love it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna love it more when we talk about it. I think I will. Now, number 6. I also feel weird about this one.
Oh,
because Chris, I felt like when I think about this song, I think about you actually. Like, I think about the live stream we did at the second listening party and how like floored we were by the song.
Oh yeah.
So number 6 for me, it's down to number 6. It would have been my number 1 after that second listening party, but right now, 6 is Jesus Lord.
Yeah, is it down to 6 because of the truncation?
Well, you know what? This is why I feel like I just need to talk about it. We need to do the episode. Like, I'm never going to get over this until we do the episode on it. Like, I'm going to be hanging in limbo here because I listened to it and I'm like, it still sounds incredible. Like, the fact that a song can remain that interesting over the course of 8 to 11 minutes, depending on which version you're listening to, while like never doing anything different production wise, is incredible. Like, and it does pull it off. Like, it feels epic in that way. And I actually do. I was listening to the bonus version today. I actually do think it fits, because you and I were kind of texting it didn't fit as well, that the Lox's verses weren't quite in line with like the theme and everything. But I actually think they are, and like they actually enhance the song. So if that version was on here, like maybe I would have it higher. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just that I've found out that I love these other songs so much that it moved down, but it just isn't quite hitting me the same as it did that second listening party.
Okay. And it might be the listening party was so large too. It did feel right. There was that excitement of like, it's still going. Yeah. It's still going.
Yeah.
And, it's arguable. Like if Off the Grid wasn't on the album with like the verse Kanye's doing there, would this verse feel even larger since it's undeniably the longest and most impressive verse on the album? Or does having Off the Grid and Jesus Lord, like they're kind of in combat and stealing each other's thunder in some ways? Or is there just something about how I feel like it felt a little more balanced when it kept going, because the song itself kind of kept going, the same way that Kanye's verse did, but just going Kanye to Jay Electronica to Larry Hoover Jr. I don't know. It does, even though it's 8 minutes, it still does feel like there's a little something missing.
Yeah, but something's missing, yet every part of it is incredible. Like Jay Electronica's verse, like I still get emotional hearing that, whatever, like a voicemail, whatever it is from Larry Hoover Jr. Like it all just works to me.
Kanye's really gone into having like voicemails on his albums.
Yes.
Okay. So that was your six. I have Believe What I Say at 6.
Oh, wow. I got to say, I did not expect that to be that high for you.
Yeah, there's just something about the refrain that I really love. Like the idea of the refrain, the bounce to it. I know that I tend to like the darker songs rather than the brighter songs, but there's something to the emotion of this. And what's the specific line? Like one last sparkle. Don't let the lifestyle drag you down. Who knows when was the last time you felt the love? One last sparkle to follow in my light. Yeah. One last sparkle to follow. There's just something so captivating about the concept of that to me and the energy that it gives to the song. Yeah. And then Kanye having what's kind of a long extended verse I enjoy a lot. I don't know. I go back and forth on like Buju's portion being so long. But I like how the song stands out on the album.
Yeah, it's great. I love every part of it. I'm excited to talk about that guy as part of the song for sure.
Yeah. What you got at 5?
All right. This might be surprising because I think from the very first listening party, actually the second I heard it in that Nike commercial, I was like, holy shit, this is the best. But I have No Child Left Behind down at 5. Don't get me wrong. It still gives me chills. Like, I think it's the best song on the album from an ambient standpoint, and you guys know I love ambient music, so like it's up my alley. He did miracles on me. Like Kanye, I mean, it sends chills down my spine, and it's a perfect cap to the album. I think the only reason I kind of made myself move it down lower is it feels now more like an epilogue to me, to come to life than a song, which again, like if it transcends, I don't care. And I do think it does transcend. But I guess if I'm forcing myself, I'm looking at the other songs that are songs, I just like them a little more. So I decided to move it down.
That's what Cole was saying last night in the green room as well, that like No Child Left Behind is one of his favorites on the album, but it started to feel more of an epilogue than like a song.
No, well, me and Cole are in the same page then.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that. I get that. I would have expected it to be your number one, so I'm excited to see.
Yeah.
By process of elimination, I should know what the other four are, but my grasp of the album still isn't to the point where I'm just like, oh yeah, this. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
Also, we've gone through 19 songs. It's hard to keep track of.
Right.
My number 5, which I don't know if I want to put it at number 4 or not, but I'm keeping it at 5 for now, is Hurricane.
Okay.
I think what The Weeknd added to the song is fantastic. I think his lyrics are... I was so excited by the lyrical change because I think he brought a degree of like the mythic or just elevated lyricism to it that is a little more imagery driven, a little more cinematic. That's really cool to me. That fits with the imagery that Kanye usually brings to a song. I'm getting more into Lil Baby's verse as well. Yeah. And I just think the Kanye verse is very poignant, especially in context of the album and how much the album is dealing with things going wrong in his marriage and bad decisions that he's made. So the song being so much about Kanye's mistakes as well also feels thematically relevant and important to the album. So it's just a song that's beautiful to listen to, and I really love how big it feels at times, despite being just like a 3-minute song. What The Weeknd adds to it, the choir that finally got added to it, it's pretty dynamic.
Yeah, it's my number 4. So
okay,
it's a song that I think, gosh, I fear sometimes that I paint myself as like an outsider of the Kanye community, or that I do stuff like antagonistically. But I did think for a while, like, I don't think Hurricane will ever really be my favorite because everyone loves it so much. Like, it's a song that everyone wants to be great. But I feel like people, I don't know. Anyway, besides moving on from that, like, I think I maybe wasn't allowing myself to love it, and maybe just didn't love it as much at the listening parties. Like, of course, when The Weeknd was put in, I was like, oh my God, this guy, like, he makes any song he's on soar. Like, it's incredible. But I didn't really get it until I listened to it with headphones, and especially the last couple of days. Like, to me, this song just, like, it's so heavenly. Like, the sound, the lyrics, like, how, like you said, how mythic it is. And I actually really love what Kanye did with the choir, where at the listening party, it's like this big, giant, like, resounding choir that plays along with The Weeknd, but on the album it like cuts out, and I think that's cool. Like, I like that juxtaposition with The Weeknd, and it almost makes it makes it very disarming in a way I think fits with the beginning of this album, as Kanye's like trying to like establish this connection, like trying to be spiritual, but like keeps feeling held back and like being tied down by this like haunting production. Like, I just love that part of it. And finally, the if you don't like the we are not friends. That is magic to my motherfucking ears. Like, that is Kanye doing his thing. I say it all the time.
Yeah, it's catchy, right? It's catchy. And the chorus, talking about the chorus, or the choir, it does feel almost Tron-like to me. It just feels like they're glitching in and glitching out, because it almost feels like they're just copy and pasted in. We have them saying this one line rather than blended in, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it adds kind of another electronic, might not be the right word, like computer might not be the right word, but it's just feeling Tron-like to me in how it comes in and out, which is in some ways what Television feels like to me. It's something that's kind of inserted that doesn't blend in from the front and doesn't blend out. It's just kind of a clip that's inserted in there, and can be a little jarring, but I think it works better on Hurricane.
I actually think that might be a running motif we see in the album. Like, the choir here like cuts out, and then it's a little fuller in 24, but like it's also like trying to get going, you know, like the organ like goes up and then it stops, and goes up and it stops. And then you finally get to something like Come to Life, which is so full with like its piano and everything.
Which, speaking about Come to Life, that's my number 4.
Oh, okay. I thought it might have been your number 1.
No, it's strange. I know there are people that are freaking out over this song, saying that it's the best song in the album, that it's like as good as Runaway, if not better than Runaway. Like I've seen people say that as well. And I get it. It's very beautiful. It's delicate. There's a loveliness to it. I think the church that's in the background as well, the church service that's going on, is really fascinating. And a cool element to bring in, as it just kind of feels like it resolves a lot of what's going on, and is also very cinematic. Like it gives you a sense of place that's added to this album, that Kanye's kind of coming to life in this church. I love the lines. Where was it? Penciled. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wait, took your thoughts and penciled them in. Should have wrote them down in pen.
I thought of you when I heard that line, because I knew you'd love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like the idea that, especially I'm relating it to Kim, and this notion that he was not taking the things that she was saying seriously enough. And if only he had been writing down what she said in pen and giving her that, rather than being so busy jumping around to this, jumping around to that, and just writing what she said down in pencil because it was as important as everything else in his life rather than paramount.
Right.
That's such a beautiful metaphor. It's incredible to me what he's saying, and just this being the climactic song, the last song. I think there's a lot that we're going to dive into. It's just not quite as epic to me as the other songs that are ahead of it.
Okay.
So because I tend to lean more strongly towards the epic and the maximal, this just ended up at 4 rather than like 1, 2, or 3.
All right. I like it. Number 3 for me is Moon.
Okay. There it is.
I feel like there's nothing, I can't even say anything about this song that isn't obvious about. Like you even acknowledge like how beautiful it sounds. So like,
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, to me, that beauty though, like I don't think any Kanye song has ever sounded this beautiful. Like Don Toliver like immediately brings tears to my eyes. Then Cudi comes in and like he's adding his own magic, and then before you know it, like him and Kanye and Don Toliver are mixing, and like they're all doing different things, yet it all harmonizes. I mean, and it's one of the most ambient songs on the album. Like the way it makes use of everybody's vocals so well. I just think it takes Kanye's sound to a new place, which is probably why the top 3 are in my top 3. Like this is the furthest I've seen Kanye push his sound, and I love the way he's playing with ambient and pop and just going to new places that hip hop doesn't typically go. Like I just get so jazzed for it, and these songs just like take me to a place that none of these other songs do.
That's a great argument for Moon.
Yeah.
It is doing a lot of it. Do you see like a little bit of a sonic connection to the start of Moon and Hurricane?
I could see that, yeah. I would probably have to listen to it a little closer.
I want to go to the moon. There's just something in that initial thing that I'm wondering when we start getting into the season if we're going to find like a little bit of a connective tissue between Hurricane and Moon.
You mean like the melody? Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. And like, will that have any meaning in terms of thematics? Is it just kind of an interesting note? Like there's a couple times, like you have, I think, is it Lord I Need You and Come to Life both mention like feeling free or being free?
Right.
And then you have, I think, Jonah and OK OK that have being from the mud in back-to-back songs, which could just be complete coincidence. It's a common phrase. But I wonder if there's dualities as a motif that we're going to see like a little bit more of, or if that's just one of those early hypotheses that fails to gather any steam.
I love it. Give me all the theories. I want them all.
Yeah. My number 3 is Jesus Lord.
I didn't think it'd be number one for you anymore, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was going to be like number one just by how long Kanye's verse was.
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing and how epic the song was, but I do think not having locks on it reduces everything a bit. Which we still have part two, and I think I could easily insert part two into like my version of the album and be happy, in which case it's still probably like 1, 2, or 3. I feel like 1, 2, or 3 are kind of interchangeable to me.
Yeah.
Like I just had to rank them, but this could Jesus Lord Part 2 could easily be number 1 or 2. It's just currently as Jesus Lord is number 3, but I just love the epic verse and the energy of it. I love what the soundscape is doing. It's repetitive, but I think it's the same way that Streetlights has that repetition that plays into kind of the point of the song. Where in Streetlights, it's you're passing these streetlights and you're trying to get somewhere, but you're not there yet. So he just kind of gives the song that form and that function. And here it's just talking about like you need like Jesus, and having that repeat as kind of a chant, a prayer, much in the way that you have Donda chant, as something that you need, and you're repeating it over and over again, trying to summon it, trying to bring it to life. I find something very beautiful about that.
Yeah. Like we've noted, it's incredible to extract that much power and movement from a song that doesn't feel like it's really going anywhere. It's crazy.
Right.
All right. Now, you haven't been keeping track of my songs, you say. So you probably don't know what's about to come. And this, I actually was sitting here just now wondering if I should move this up to number 1, because it was my number 1 in the YouTube ranking. Okay. And everyone was freaking out the whole time. They're like, Travis hasn't given out his ranking of this song yet. He still hasn't. It's in the top 5. It's in the top 3. It's number 1. And that song was Remote Control.
Oh, man. I don't understand you.
Well, I got to say, Chris, that this was in the cards because I think I can at least remember one other time, but I feel like it's happened more than once, where the song, this happened with The Life of Pablo, where when you heard Waves, you said Waves was the worst Kanye song you had ever heard. You were like so quick to say like, oh my God, this song's terrible. And I was like on the inside, like, I think this song's like everything. Like, I think it's like everything I want out of music. And I'm a little like hesitant about it first. Maybe I'm just less hesitant now. But again, at the first listening party, while Remote Control was playing and I was just like vibing with it and like in it, you like nudged me and like shouted very loudly, because the music was very loud, like, this is terrible. And I was like, wait, what? Like I asked, and like I couldn't process you thinking it was terrible. I was like, man, like it sounds so good. And the song kept evolving and evolving from listening part. I guess it lost a little bit of the evolve on the final version. But this is in the vein of Waves, where like I think this song is doing things with the melody, with just as a piece of pop music. I think what it's doing with everything from the way Kanye's like rap singing to like that thumping that comes in that doesn't make the song uglier but somehow makes it more beautiful, with those creepy sounds that are like floating around, with the whistling, Kanye's flow, Young Thug's verse, like from moment to moment musically, I just think it's the happiest a Kanye song has ever made me. Like I'm just so in tune with it and vibing with it. Like I immediately start dancing whenever it plays. Like you cannot stop me. I'm dancing for the next like 3.5 minutes. My wife and I have been singing it every time it comes on. Like we get so happy. Like to me, it's just become a song that's like, I don't know, like I instantly connected with it and like felt like I got it. And lyrically, we'll get into it a little more, I guess. I think it's doing some cool things lyrically. Maybe it's not like the deepest Kanye song, but what it's doing at this place in the album, like I'm vibing with it every second of the way.
All right. You heard the man.
Everyone freaked out when I did that. I had a number one.
I can imagine. Which it's just so you. It's so you.
It is
And
the showgirls of
think
this album.
it is. I'm still torn on it. Like I have it low just because I do feel such a like torn between like how much am I enjoying this and how much is it like too slow to me.
Oh, okay. Really? Okay.
For what it's doing. Yeah, the pace of it is what
guess you're
gets to
right.
me. Like, got it on remote control. Like, I can't even do the
Remote control.
Yeah, I'm just not into that for the most part. And the fact that it does that so many times, 1, 2, 3. I guess it's just
You
3.
like counting.
I do like counting. But I am like starting to like I can see some of the concepts. Like the first time in the intro, Kanye's kind of like flexing and saying that he's got it on remote control. And then right before we get to Young Thug, it's like, God just grabbed my hand, had a bigger plan. He got this on remote control. So Kanye is kind of losing control and giving it over to God, which is one of the things that he talks about later on the album. What is it? Is it like Pure Souls or Lord I Need You? Or he's just like, I'm done being the one in charge. Like I leave everything up to God because I've been fucking things up.
Yeah, I definitely think that energy is there. And it doesn't, so lyrically, I do find it an interesting track in the album. And in that way, you could think of it as just an album track that's communicating like a single idea. But I agree that it is doing that. And I think it's just doing it really well. And that helps it transcend lyrically a bit for me. And I think there is an aspect of the song where Kanye and Young Thug are more into like trivial or like the ego really comes out and then the ego's put in check. And I feel like the music goes really well with that. You know, it's kind of like playful and like not seemingly not deep or anything. So I don't know. It's just, again, everything about it works.
Nice. Okay. Well, my number 2 is God Breathed, which I talked about earlier. Which I'm pretty torn. Like I keep going back and forth. I just find myself liking, like coming back to the number 1 so often. But God Breathed could still easily end up by the end of the season or by the end of this sentence going back to number 1. I just find the concept, like the production aspect of it, is everything that I want it to do. My only complaint is that the bass isn't louder. That's doing the I know God breathed on this. I know God breathed on this. I want a little more thump.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And it's a little tame, but I just find the way in which Kanye plays with that bass, having it go along with his words and then removing his words and still having it have this energy and vitality, then taking it away for periods of time before reintroducing it. It's so like crack music to me.
Right.
I can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
And it just, especially when it comes back in at the end and then falls away completely and we have that extended outro. There's just something about the juxtaposition between how forceful that bass is and then how quiet and haunting the outro is that I find so perfect as kind of a start to this album. I don't know if we want to say like Jail is the official beginning, or more of an intro like on The Life of Pablo, or if God Breathed is the official beginning, or also more of like an intro. And you're kind of having this duality as well with Jail and God Breathed, kind of capturing two elements of things before Off the Grid kind of kicks things off.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. But I'm still haven't even paid attention to the lyrics all that much. I've just been vibing with what this song is doing sonically so strongly that it's not even one of those things where like there's a line that jumps out to me that I just love so much, or there's a concept that jumps out to me. Maybe we'll get into the lyrical analysis and I'll be like, oh, it's a little thin,
right?
Or it's not tying together to anything, but it does still feel like there's probably something important going on that I'm going to love, and I just think that the song it's probably going into my like top 10 Kanye songs all time.
Yeah, it's a rad song. It's the kind of song where it's funny to me that you don't really know the lyrics, because I think of you as like a lyrics first kind of guy. And I totally agree. Like, this song is communicating all of its ideas without you needing to hear the lyrics. Like, you totally get a sense of what it's doing and how it's like painting an atmosphere and becoming part of the landscape of this first part of the album. It's great.
Yep.
I also just realized what your number one song is. I'm interested to hear about this. Okay, but my number one is "Come to Life."
Okay, yeah. So that's you're with the Runaway people.
Yeah, and I will say that to me, number one, "Come to Life" and "Remote Control" are tied for number one, because "Remote Control" is probably the song I love the most. Technically, like, it's the kind of sound I love, but "Come to Life," again, that run yesterday where I was just crying my ass off into my sweat, that like "Come to Life," it hit in a way that I did not expect, because I remember hearing it the listening part and being like, oh, this sounds great, like, this, what a great song to close the album. But it's incredible in a way that I couldn't process until I understood how deeply personal and emotional the album was, and how much this song pays off on everything. It's one of the most optimistic and hopeful songs I've probably ever heard. And as a Kanye fan, like, because of that, because Kanye's my number one, like, it hits a special place in my heart that no other song really can. So, and it just sounds incredible. Like, the way it builds the entire time, the sounds that slowly populate, Kanye's singing his ass off. He's not like a great singer yet. He's like the best singer ever. Like, whenever he does the right song, he turns into like the greatest singer ever. It feels like Ultralight Beam, but like even bigger than that. And then the piano just literally had me in tears. And I really would love to meet the person who played the piano.
Who did play the piano?
I kind of wondered if it was Mike Dean, because remember we went to his place and he just like sat down at the piano and just played his ass off like it was the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, I'll tweet at him and be like, Mike, did you play the piano and Come to Life?
Yeah, but God, that song. So I have it tied up number one because I think it might be one of the most important Kanye songs ever. So as a Kanye fan and as a Kanye scholar, I feel obligated to have it up there.
That I get it. Oh, did you just get a text message? From Twitter? If you could send me that text message.
Sorry, I thought you were asking if I thought maybe someone else was trying to hack into our Twitter account.
It is me.
You got it.
It is.
You need to tweet in the middle of this episode. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to tweet. Sure. I got to tweet Mike Dean.
Oh, you know? Right.
Before I forget.
Yeah, we should take care of this. Because I'm pretty sure he did production on the song.
Yes.
Which is interesting to think about, because this song didn't premiere until the third listening party. So this had to be made. Was he still there? I don't know.
He went home by that point, but it was after the second listening party.
Okay.
He was still there for like a few days.
Right. Okay. So they had this song in the works for a bit.
Did you play the piano on Come to Life?
Or do you know who did?
Okay, so yeah, Come to Life is definitely one that's going to be, I think it's going to be considered kind of the ghost town, the Blood on the Leaves, the Runaway of this album.
Yeah. And yeah, it's great.
My number one, Off the Grid.
Yeah.
Which
wow, I did not expect
deduced.
That.
Yeah, I just find, so I love epic things.
Yep. It is epic.
And there's just something to how this song goes that, and again, lyrics first kind of person here.
Yeah.
But when I click with the song sonically, there's just something to how much Fivio is doing and the way in which he is like speeding up, slowing down. on beat, what the beat is doing as he's going. I just find it like an F1 race. There's just something really cool watching the car just go on this insane track and just stick to the road, take these like crazy curves. I'm very impressed by his verse. And then for Kanye to come in and do something similar. I mean, I guess it's not quite as long, but it's long. And it feels like a verse from Kanye that we've always wanted and maybe never quite got. I mean, No More Parties in LA definitely has a similar energy, right?
Sure.
With the long Kendrick verse and then Kanye coming through and you're just like, oh, that was a cool verse. Oh, he's still going. Oh, he's still going. And to have Kanye on this beat, and I think that's kind of the difference between it and Jesus Lord. Jesus Lord doesn't necessarily have a beat that's challenging the rapper to keep up. He can kind of do his own thing. He's rapping. He's also kind of like spoken word poetrying
right
at times, where for Off the Grid, he has to like rap.
Yeah.
And I find that a version of Kanye that we don't quite get as much anymore, and a version that I've always really liked. And to see him do it here and go toe to toe with Fivio when that verse is so dynamic and go for as long as he is, I'm very into it.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see now if when we go into the lyrics, if lyrically it lives up to the hype that I have in my head for it just as a like sonic experience.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, everybody on this track kills it. And like you said, a Fivio, like him changing up the tempo and it's more than just changing up the tempo. Like he's conveying all this emotion by changing up the way he speaks, you know? And then Kanye, like he brings a completely different, like confident energy to it. Like he feels like the master with like these two, you know, younger guys. And I don't know. I do love the feel and vibe of the song so much. And I do hope that the lyrics draw me in a little bit more because like I said, the song's almost too dense for me to wrap my head around right now.
Yeah, there's so many of them. So we'll see what happens. Like, and I initially thought this was just going to be a song about Wyoming. Like, oh, he moved to Wyoming and got off the grid. Like, okay. Yeah. Nope. Doesn't mention Wyoming once.
And there you have it. Our top 23.
Yep. Only took, how long has this been going? 2 hours?
Oh, boy.
So
we warned you.
We warned you. But it's going to be, I think we covered a lot of interesting aspects of the album already, laid out some hypotheses, and it'll be fun to get going with Donda Chance and start figuring out, you know, a solid hour about him saying the name, or Selena Johnson saying the name Donda 60 times.
I think on the episode, you and I should each say Donda 60 times and like give her our own version of what the champ could have been.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Like maybe you say Donda. Like it's one of them.
Donda.
Or
Donda.
Donda.
Duh. Donda. I kind of want to ask Selena Johnson if she got any kind of prompt.
I mean, what's stopping you?
Yeah, she went out to San Francisco, I think, to meet with Kanye and possibly do that recording then a couple months ago. So I'm curious about if there was any kind of prompt, if there was any like information, because as we talked about up front, so many people are coming up with theories about what it means. And was there anything concrete given to her?
Yeah, right. Well, let's break the news on this show.
Yeah, I'll send some emails.
All right.
We'll see. All right.
We did it.
And then next episode, we will kick off our formal analysis of Donda with Donda Chant.
Only 24 episodes to go after that.
Yeah.
That's
nice.
Only if we don't do the part twos.
Which, no. I'm saying no.
Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see how we feel when we get to those songs.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. All right, then.
All right, but until Donda chant, we need everyone to all at once at the same time stay wavy.
Keep it loopy.